Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here with the NRA. I tell you, it's so good to be on the ground. We had a tough flight coming in, had to make a corkscrew landing, run through sniper fire just to make it here to the Grand Hall today. I wasn't sure I even wanted to come. I mean, to be out here with all of you very bitter people clinging to your guns and God. But let me tell you, I'm proud to be with a bunch of bitter people clinging to guns and God, because I don't know of two things I'd rather cling to than God and my gun. I've been told that the program's running a little late and they've asked me to shorten my remarks. I said, how long? They said, just remember that if Jesus had been in this same position, he would have added the beatitude to the New Testament. Blessed are the brief, for they shall be invited again. And I want to be invited again because I do love this organization and I appreciate what it stands for. What it stands for is not firearms. What it stands for is freedom. And this organization understands that without the Second Amendment, we lose the first. Our ability to speak, our ability to worship, our ability to assemble, all hinges on our capacity to protect those rights as individual citizens. And I'm so grateful that this organization has always transcended above even partisan politics and has stuck to its purpose to defend, protect, and pass on the fundamental American right that is given to us, guaranteed to us by the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. I sometimes get a little nervous when I hear people who are in politics and they're asked about the Second Amendment and they immediately begin to tell me about their hunting habits. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a hunter. But the Second Amendment is not about hunting. It is about our freedom and our protections as citizens. There are a lot of reasons that those of us who are hunters recognize the impact, some of which is economic. National Shooting Sports Foundation says there are 20.6 million active hunters in the United States. In 2005, 35.6 million hunting licenses and tags. What people do not understand is that that contributes almost $77 billion to the U.S. economy. We are not merely a force for freedom. We are a force for funding conservation in this country. And 75% of all of the conservation budgets in the states come from sportsmen. And I really resent it when people who have never bought a hunting license or a fishing license in their life try to convince me that they love the outdoors and the natural resources more than we do, because we've got an investment in it. And that investment includes some $1,100 per person who hunts big game. Small game hunters, $493 per person. And the survey says migratory bird hunters, $588 per person. I know that's a lie. I duck hunt. I wish I only spent $588 a year doing it. I was talking with Kane Robinson backstage a moment ago. I said, you know, if we ever figured up what it cost per pound to hunt and fish, our spouses would kill us. And the courts would rule it justifiable homicide. But there's another aspect, and that is that there are 600,000 people employed in conservation efforts in this country. That is more than works at all the McDonald's locations in America. There's a huge economic impact. But I'd like to suggest that part of the reason that this culture, and that's what I would like to call it, a culture, is important is because we learn something in terms of ethical behavior. Most of us learned the lessons of sportsmanship in the woods and on the water. I was deer hunting with some friends of mine in Arkansas 3 years ago, and we were hunting at a camp down in the southern part of the state, right on the Mississippi River. And there's a group of guys who all pitch in and they have the camp, and their kids have grown up with this. And kids 7, 8 years old can absolutely dress out a deer better than any adult I've ever seen because they've grown up with it. And so they were going to send me out on a deer stand one afternoon with a 14-year-old kid, and he was going to be my guide to make sure that I didn't shoot something they didn't want me to shoot, because they had very strict rules. You had to have an 18-point spread, had to have at least a 10-point deer, which is a pretty big whitetail in Arkansas. And so they wanted to make sure that I didn't take something that I wasn't supposed to take, which really hurt my feelings because it meant they didn't trust me to, just obey the rules. So they sent a 14-year-old out there to monitor me and babysit me. We get on the stand, and I'm looking through the binoculars, and some deer start coming in this field and feeding. And some pretty good-looking deer. And I look and I say, what about that one? Kids say, no, not big enough. A few minutes later, another buck would come in and say, what about that one? No, not big enough. Okay. Bucks, does, we had, at one point, I'm not making this up, there were 75 deer in this field that had come in to feed late in the afternoon. Now it's beginning to get a little dark. I'm beginning to get a little worried. There are deer all over this place, and I'm not taking a shot yet. And I'm thinking, kid, look, I'm not hunting for the wall, I'm hunting for the freezer. Nobody will know how big that dude was when we're eating him next week. And the kid kept saying, not big enough, not big enough. And I was getting frustrated and frankly upset. And about just before dusk, we were within 15 minutes of the end of shooting time. I was about ready to just put my rifle up and tell the kid, hey, look, kid, there's never going to be a deer in this field big enough for you. Either you get out of the field and I'm going to take one that looks plenty big enough to me, or we're going to call it a day. And finally, he said, there's one, it's big enough. And sure enough, it was the biggest deer I ever took in my life. And I thought, that kid had been trained since the time he was a little tot. There are rules here at this camp. Follow them no matter what. You see, I think that kid's a better American for growing up with the ethical understanding of what's right and what's wrong. And he didn't learn that by watching television. He didn't learn that off a video game. He learned that out in the woods with his father. He did not learn how to be a criminal. He learned how not to be a criminal, is what he learned. I highly resent it when people think that those who grow up with firearms are more likely to commit a crime. I believe they are less likely to commit a crime because they understand what's right and what's wrong. And by the way, one of the reasons that I'm very proud to be with so many of you today is because I think you understand, as a group of Americans, that the way we love this country and the hopes and the dreams, the aspirations we have for it, are that we believe that government should get its hands off of us as much as possible. We don't need that much of it. We'd like less of it.